Okay, take four. Welcome to Critical Weight Theory. And today I'm kicking off my occasional look at a brand new animated series. Well, okay, it's new to me anyway. In reality, it actually premiered online on June 13th, 2017, before its TV debut on August 1st. So it's actually not a brand new show, but it's new to the podcast. I'm talking about Let's Be Heroes, the very first episode of OK Hero, Let's Be Heroes. It's a quirky little title, and it is a quirky little show. This 11-minute pilot wastes absolutely no time introducing viewers to a world where superheroes, video games, anime, and Saturday morning cartoons all collide into one wonderfully chaotic universe. It was written and storyboarded by Geneva Hodgson and Myra Ongchua, and the episode lays the foundation for everything that makes the series memorable. You get introduced to the universe, you get the aesthetics, the quirkiness of the characters, and the idea of what the action is all about. So let's, watch the show. Well, not watch it right now, but do a little recap. The story centers on K.O., an endlessly cheerful young boy whose biggest dream is pretty simple. He wants to become the greatest hero ever. And in this universe, it makes sense. Well, I guess it kind of would make sense in the real world too. But we're not really talking about the real world in this show. K.O. accompanies his mother, Carol, to Lakewood Plaza Turbo, an unusual shopping center where Carol teaches martial arts. The plaza, I said plaza instead of plaza. The plaza is home to Gar's Bodega, a convenience store that's also a supply shop for heroes run by the legendary and mysterious Mr. Gar. To KO, everything at the plaza is amazing. He instantly looks up to the employees working at the bodega. There's Enid, who is the cool, sarcastic ninja who always seems to know exactly what she's doing, and Radicals, better known simply as Rad, a blue skinned alien whose confidence is almost as large as his ego. It seems like a character who might not really tell the truth about everything. And of course, no superhero world would be complete without a villain. Before long, the evil industrialist Lord Boxman, or Boxman, launches one of his trademark robot attacks against the plaza. Seeing his chance to become a real hero, KO charges fearlessly into battle. Unfortunately, it lasts about 2 seconds, and the robot knocks him unconscious almost immediately. So KO gets the KO, It's a little bit of a quirky twist on the first episode here. And while he's out cold, KO imagines himself defeating the robot in a glorious, heroic fashion. But when he wakes up, reality quickly sets in. The battle is already over, and Mr. Gar has effortlessly destroyed the robot without even breaking a sweat. So he kind of makes a mockery out of KO's own efforts, but KO takes it pretty well. You know, it's a funny moment, but it's also an important one. KO isn't secretly overpowered, he isn't instantly gifted. He's simply a kid with enormous dreams and almost no experience. And rather than becoming discouraged, KO reaches the realization that defines not only this episode but the entire series. Being a hero is not about instant success, it's about learning, training, failing, and then getting back up. So he's determined to improve rather than feeling discouraged or angry at Gar. And KO decides to get a job at Gar's bodega where he can earn respect and work alongside real heroes and slowly earn his place among them. And that simple decision becomes the beginning of his journey, and I suppose our journey along with this hero. And one of the greatest strengths of this premiere is how efficiently it establishes the characters. KO is relentlessly optimistic. Even after embarrassing failures, he never loses his enthusiasm or kindness, and his determination makes him instantly likable. Enid provides the perfect contrast. She's practical, experienced, and armed with a healthy dose of sarcasm. While she may seem unimpressed by KO's enthusiasm, it's clear she has far more experience than he does. Then there's Rad, whose confidence frequently exceeds his actual accomplishments, at least from what I can tell, and from what I've read when I looked at the character's bio. So apparently he's endlessly entertaining because he talks like he's already the galaxy's greatest hero, even when the audience can tell he's exaggerating and all that kind of stuff. So he's a braggart, at least from what I can gather, anyway. And then finally, there's Mr. Gar. Gar is calm, powerful, and mysterious. He commands immediate respect, and unlike Rad, he doesn't waste time bragging. His actions speak for themselves, and he expects competence from everyone around him. And looming over it all is Lord Boxman, or Boxman, whose endless robot attacks establish him as the show's recurring comedic antagonist. And the episode also introduces several concepts that might make the world of OK feel unique. Characters actually possess collectible power cards with numerical levels that resemble RPG statistics, so it's a little bit strange. And heroes treat fighting villains as part of their everyday jobs rather than world ending crises. There are some video game mechanics that exist naturally alongside superhero adventures, anime inspired action, and comic book style storytelling. It's a setting where nearly every geeky influence imaginable is blended together and into one cohesive universe. So this is like a comic book nerd, video game nerd, uh, that kind of stuff, fantasy nerd kind of stuff, sci fi nerd maybe thrown into the mix. And visually, the series stands out a little bit. The animation is packed with exaggerated facial expressions, energetic movement, and lightning fast comedic timing. Every scene feels alive, constantly bouncing between action, comedy, and some heartfelt emotion. And, the series didn't last very long. I'm just going to point that out right now. But, there's a lot of competition out there. I think maybe if this show had come out earlier in the history of animation, maybe it could have had more success than it actually did. But nevertheless, I thought it was a cute little first episode, and the style reflects the vision of creator Ian Jones Quartey, or I probably mispronounced that name too. Man, people's names, it's hard to get them all right, and I mangle a bunch of them. And anyway, his previous work was on Steven Universe, which I've never actually watched, and Adventure Time, which I've actually watched plenty of episodes of, and I've even reviewed a few of those on this podcast. And that experience, no doubt, helped shape his ability to balance some absurd humor with genuine emotional sincerity. And beneath all the colorful visuals and frantic action is a surprisingly grounded message. The episode argues that greatness is not something you're born with, at least from a certain perspective, you're probably not just born with it. It's earned. Real heroes are not defined by winning every fight, they're defined by getting back up after losing one. And that's an encouraging message for viewers of any age. So, even though this is mostly a kid's cartoon, I would say, I think a weirdo like me might be able to get into something like this a little bit, even though it's not necessarily my average cup of tea. I could see returning and doing more reviews of these episodes. And despite running only 11 minutes, Let's Be Heroes manages to introduce an entire world, establish some memorable characters, explain its unique setting, deliver a few laughs, and end with an inspiring emotional payoff. And it's no surprise that fans embraced the premiere, helping it earn an impressive 8.4 out of 10 user rating on IMDb. Now, I'm a little skeptical of these ratings for things like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes, but if you were to take them seriously, you might be impressed by a rating like that. I don't know. I think sometimes people, they show up and spam these things, and if you've got a series with rabid fans, it might kind of bias it in some way. You might think a show is or a show or a movie is better than it actually is. I guess it depends on your perspective. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But I'm just saying, as if you care about the ratings here, well, this one got good ratings, and many still point to this as one of a pretty strong pilot because it communicates everything the series wants to be from the very beginning. And I looked at a failed pilot recently for the series LA Confidential, and I would say one of the weaknesses of that show, which is obviously more of a serious drama, but one of the weaknesses of that show is that it doesn't really immerse a person entirely in that universe. Um, it's a tough thing to do with a premiere and a pilot, or whatever word you want to use when you're introducing someone to something. Um, it's the same thing with music. You're not gonna necessarily have success with every release. You know, Sometimes you just get somebody hooked right from the very start, and that can be the key to success. But some things they're just not that successful, and this show was only successful for a limited amount of time. And I think a lot of TV networks, they're not really that fair to shows. Sometimes they don't give them a chance to succeed. It's like if they had a little bit of a bumpy start, they say, "Oops, too bad you weren't a rip roaring success, a runaway freight train of success. We got to let you go." And that might have been what happened to this show and certain shows like it. And you know, it's a it's a little bit of a journey, this show, and for newcomers, this pilot's an invitation into one of Cartoon Network's most joyful and optimistic animated worlds. Not that I've seen every Cartoon Network show, but I've seen a few of them, and this one's, it's not a dark show. It doesn't have like really dark themes or whatever. Well, anyway, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed revisiting the beginning of OK K.O, Let's Be Heroes, be sure to join me next time, whenever that is, maybe some years from now, who knows. But I will eventually explore more memorable episodes of this series, and I'll be looking at other classic cartoons and the stories behind the animations that we love. And, I also look at horror movies. I'll be doing an end of summer horror movie review coming up soon. I'm sometimes talking about politics and society. I might get into historical trivia here and there. I'm even going to venture into some smut every so often. Like, I'm going to be watching all kinds of different stuff, talking about all sorts of different topics. So, well, remember that every great hero starts somewhere. And yeah, that's the sort of message this show gives you. So I'll see you next time. Have a great one. Like and subscribe. Blah, blah, blah.